Welcome to Forged in the Fires podcast with Fireman Rob. Being a fireman, father, veteran, husband, world record holder, and Ironman, he brings stories of experience to impact your life while challenging you to live it. What do you want from your life? Why do you want it? Are you willing to go through the challenges to get there? If you have the courage to take that first step, let this podcast be the catalyst to start your fire, while you bring the resilience to make it continue to burn. Our lives are made up of moments called right nows. So let's get started. Forged in the Fires podcast with your host, Fireman Rob, begins now.
We got the same blood, stay by your side, it's ride or die, we've got the same blood.
All right, welcome back to Forged in the Fires podcast. I'm your host, Fireman Rob. Today I have the opposite side of the badge, a police officer. He's going to be on this show. He also is an Air Force veteran. And has an amazing story. And I'm not going to wait too long to get back into this. So, Jason Schechterle, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it very much.
You know, it's one of those things. You have a police officer on. It's like, oh my gosh, firefighter and a police officer. This could be R-rated.
It better be R-rated. That's all I know. But you're not going to find too many cops who love firemen more than me for the reasons of the story you're about to hear.
Exactly. And you know, actually, I want to go to what you're doing now before we go back, because I think it's always awesome to just see what you're doing now. You're doing motivational speeches, keynote speeches, talking about just the amazingness of change, but how to deal with that change. I want you to actually tell me what it feels like to be on stage right now and helping people to be engaged in their lives.
Yeah, and it's so great that you asked that question right now. I just got back a couple days ago. I was in Nevada doing a donor family remembrance ceremony for the Nevada Donor Network. So,
that's amazing.
You know, it's just a room full. There's 400 people in there, and it's all families who have lost loved ones, you know, at different stages. A lot of young people, tragedies that gave the gift of life. And as you can imagine, you know, part of the reason why I try to stay away from the term motivational speakers, because every speech I give is a little different to different audiences. And this thing was incredibly heavy, incredibly emotional. I mean, I'm standing on stage. My life was saved for a lot of reasons, you know, the firefighters, my doctors, but possibly the biggest reason that my life was saved was being a tissue recipient. And so I'm trying to, you know, look at these people knowing I'm getting ready to go back home to Phoenix with an incredible life. And here you all are with loss, and try to explain the gratitude. But being on that stage, really being on any stage, I've just come to love it so much. The bigger the audience, the better. And every crowd, you know, whether I'm speaking to, I did the Washington State Fire Chiefs Association not too long ago. And nice. It's just a bunch of old school chiefs and assistant chiefs, and right up my alley. We're laughing, we're joking.
Yep.
And, you know, tried to give them a little reminder. Hey, I get it. You're my age. You're all in your 50s. But remember when you started? Remember how much you loved this job? So doing something like that, and then turning around and doing something crazy emotional like the other day, I soak it up like you can't even believe. I'm so blessed.
Oh, it's amazing. I love, reading some of your reviews on your books and your speaking. It's like, you know, it's sad, exciting, life-changing, emotional, you know, and then, I love that. The most influential speaker I've ever heard. And that I want to go back to your story, because I mean, I know you probably told this millions and millions of times, but we're going to try to go a different route. You know, you had a life-changing event on March 26th of 2001. Tell me a little bit about that event, and then we're going to kind of go into just that mindset of how you got through all that.
So I'd only been on the streets. I was the first graduating class in Phoenix, 2000. January 7th. And I've only been on the streets 14 months. And, I don't know how you guys feel in the fire service, but it takes a good 3, 5, 7 years before you really know what you're doing. And I mean, I only been out there 14 months, so I'm still barely keeping up with how the dispatchers talk on the radio. And I was still also like, there's the two greatest things in the world are answering 911 calls to help people and taking bad guys to jail. There's just nothing better than those two things. So I couldn't wait to go to work every day. And so, March 26th of 2001 was just like we all say, which is probably stupid, but it was a boring routine day. Nothing going on. Right. And I went through about 8.5 hours of my 10-hour shift, answered up for a call that I actually not that I shouldn't have answered up for it. It was not in my area of responsibility. It was out of my patrol zone, but officers in that area were busy at the time. So I said, I'll take it. And it was a dead body call. It sounded like something serious. And while responding to that call, code 3, lights and siren, I came to one of our busy intersections in Phoenix and had a red light. So as you still got to stop.
Oh, yeah.
Can't you still fly through a red light? But it only takes a second and a half to clear an intersection. And
right.
Just the time. And this is where the timing of everything is part of what I love about sharing the story is just a constant reminder of even when words are coming out of my mouth, I'm just sitting here going, wow, that really happened. And I was hit by a taxi cab. The guy was having an epileptic seizure. He was completely out of control in the midst of a grand mal seizure. He was doing 115 miles an hour.
Oh.
That's a speed I can't. This is a 40-mile-an-hour downtown city street.
Wow.
So I'm knocked unconscious. Thank God. I didn't see him coming, didn't feel the impact, didn't have to deal. Because, had I been awake, had I been screaming and sucking in all that hot air and smoke, dude, I would have been dead quick. But being unconscious, shallow breathing, and my car was propelled 270 feet through the intersection. And the irony and miracle and timing of coming to stop 50 feet from a fire truck.
Right.
I mean, you can't even make that up. Nobody has that kind of luck and blessing. And, I want to really emphasize, and if I get long-winded, you could tell me shut the hell up.
I would never tell you that. You had a gun and handcuffs. I'm not going to tell you that.
Had. The key word had.
It doesn't matter. You may still have them.
Okay, I do. I don't ever want to lose touch. I don't want anybody to lose touch as I just give the sequence of events that we're talking about human beings here. And the 4 firefighters on that truck, we all have a job to do. We all wear a uniform. But when it comes right down to it, we still have fight or flight syndrome to deal with. We do have our emotions. I don't care all the jokes we have. There's a special camaraderie between our groups. And this crew was simply, and they were actually driving a different direction than I was. They came to the other side of the light. They turned left, and the world literally blew up in front of them. And how many calls do you go on? Probably 99% of your calls, you have a little bit of info. Like, here's
Very
what
little.
it is.
Yeah.
Here's what 911 said. You have a little bit of time to prepare for how you're going to respond and react once you get there. This crew had none of that. The world blew up in front of them, and then they saw very quickly, oh, my God, that's a police car, and I'm trapped inside of it. And you had all range of people, just an incredible female engineer named Rebecca Joy, who had her own responsibilities to getting the truck prepped, getting the hoses out. One of the firefighters having to battle the blaze, which was out of control, licking the bottom of the interstate overpass. That's how big it was.
Wow.
A young 22-year-old rookie, 6 months on, and the captain's like, hey, you got to get him out. Well, Really?
What skills do I apply to this?
At 22 years old, and a driver's side window is not a very big opening. I'm 6'3".
No.
I was a rock solid 200 pounds at the time, best shape of my life, 28 years old, and this poor kid, he broke my driver's side window with his axe, and knowing that I was dead, like you can't be in a fire like this and
survive,
and so. As soon as he broke my window, I reached out, like trying to grab the roof of the car and pull myself out. And he said it scared the shit out of him. I love that part of it, but I'm like, dude, I was
ready to get out.
I was still going to fight for myself.
Right.
But in all seriousness, from the time I was hit, and you can listen, I have the my introductory video when I do my public speaking is the actual audio.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's incredible. And from the time I was hit till the time they had me out of the car was 90 seconds. And then another beautiful thing.
Wow.
The ambulance is like here in Phoenix, we don't have private ambulance. Like the rescues are City of Phoenix firefighters.
Yep.
Yeah. So the engineers and there was, they're not ashamed to say there wasn't a lot of calmness in this situation.
It's not always, like you said before, it's humans.
Yeah, exactly. And she was screaming. She's like, don't you stage, you pull up right here. And they pulled up right next to my car. And as, by then a couple of police officers had arrived on scene. They're going through their own, like, who is that? That's one of my friends who's dying. And they pulled me out of this driver's side window. One of the cops had to crawl inside the car because my long legs, size 13 boots, got stuck underneath the steering wheel and dashboard, and they body surfed me like I never touched the ground, man. They body surfed me right into the back of the rescue. Two paramedics jumped in. Right. Like one abandoned his own rescue unit and jumped into this other rescue unit. They're trying to find a place to get IVs, and they're so proud of it that they did it. Yeah. And then, another guy's driving. I was, again, another miracle. I'm 2.5 miles away from, I'll argue with anybody, best burn center in the United States at what at the time was known as Maricopa County Hospital. It's now Valley-Wise, but their burn center is amazing. And I was on their trauma table in 8 minutes.
Wow.
I mean, try to imagine. How many calls have you been on? That doesn't happen.
Well, I can only imagine when you tell that story, the number of people. I mean, because it's one of those things where, like that in a movie, they ride out for 45 minutes, right? Sure. And so people don't grasp the concept of how quickly you have to think. And if take me back to that moment in the fact of the mindset that people can take from that, of the little things create the bigger goals, the bigger successes. What are some of those little mindset pieces that you think people can take from that 8-minute segment?
Well, the best mindset story that I can tell, something that I love and so grateful for. So the firefighter who had to battle the fire, his name's Darren Boyce. He's now retired and living in Utah. But this guy, he's my age. He's got kids my age, and he was in the back of the fire truck. They're on their way to the same dead body call that I was going to. So for them, they're going code 2. They're still wearing their shorts and T-shirt.
Right.
Well, back when he was a rural county firefighter by himself, he would challenge himself how quick he could turn out. And he would time himself. Now, listen, not a lot of guys do this. Just like a lot of cops don't go down to the gun range every week and practice like they should. Practice your handcuff techniques. Practice how you're doing certain things. There's gonna come a call where it matters. And what Darren told me, years down the line, he said, what the beauty of that moment was? I had my head back, I had my eyes closed.
I've been there.
I'm wearing a T-shirt and shorts. And when he heard this explosion, when he opened his eyes, he said the next thing he knew, he was standing next to my car, fully turned out, battling the blaze, shooting pure oxygen across my face. And he, to this day, does not know how he got his uniform on. And if that doesn't explain how our mindsets have to work, you've got to be able to do stuff without asking yourself to do it.
Yeah. I love that.
It's just beautiful.
I love that. And it's so powerful to hear from you. Like how long before after this accident happened? I mean, you had a long road. I mean, I don't want to like make it sound like, hey, next week he was up and going.
Oh,
but,
dude, I just went to the chiropractor. I was good.
You went to the chiropractor, you got some donuts, you were good to go.
Exactly. That was good. That was good.
It's amazing how they help. But 50 surgeries later, you had burns over 40% of your body. But as you're going through this process, when did you want to know kind of who helped you, what happened, that kind of stuff? When did that kind of go through your mind of, okay, I need to have this?
Well, that part, the helping part was right away. And it's because I woke up. So they placed me into a medically induced coma. And, they were very clear with my family. Jason's not going to survive. He's got 4th degree burns to his head and face. It's not possible to survive this. I will take him into surgery. I'll get all of that dead bacteria-filled tissue. Because I didn't know this back then. I know it now, and I always explain to people, burns keep on burning. So if my arms were 2nd degree, by the time I got to the hospital, now they're 3rd degree. You got to get that stuff off as quickly as possible. So they did that with surgery, stripped away my entire physical identity. I'm down to the muscle and bone and into a medically induced coma. Well, somehow, through the gift of life and the donated tissue, through the hard work of the doctors and my nurses, the prayers from my community and the family, I kept surviving. And so finally they woke me up. It was 2.5 months that I was in a coma. And being a medically induced coma, it's the blink of an eye, right? This is not a head injury or anything like this. Right. Outside of the burns, I had 2 cracked ribs and a mild concussion. I was almost uninjured.
Crazy.
So I wake up and my wife was in the room with me, which you're going to hear me say this word a lot, and this is how I live my life. I'm just grateful. It wasn't the middle of the night. I wasn't with some stranger. I was completely blind. I had a lot of thoughts pouring into my mind. Why can't I open my eyes? I was just at work. I can't move. I had no freaking clue what was going on. And my wife told me, her first thing she said to me, and I'll never forget how calm and strong her voice was. Amazing. She hadn't talked to me in a long time. And we'd only been married 4 years at the time, had 2 little kids.
Really?
So, this girl had gone through a lot, and she was as strong as a rock. And she said, you were in a car accident. And the first question I asked was it my fault? Because I'm a cop. I'm like, please tell me I didn't hit somebody. Right. And she was like, no, it wasn't your fault. And then she did very quickly tell me that my car had caught on fire. And I actually told her, I said, don't stop. Don't say another word to me. This is the only thing from my way back memories as a kid, the only thing in life I've ever been scared of is fire.
It's fire. Yeah.
Yeah, it truly is. I don't cook on gas barbecue grills. I don't buy real Christmas trees. Like, I'm not kidding. I was terrified. Anything else, bring it on. And of course, you also, when you're going through thoughts like that, you're like, that's never going to happen to me anyway.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
No problem. But so then, I did want to ask a few questions like, well, how in the world did I get here? Like, and I was told a few things like, well, there was a fire truck right there, but I couldn't. I just
process it.
Yeah, I was way too sick, and it was way too big to get my mind wrapped around. Okay, all right. Well, at the time I was like, okay, well, that's cool, and I really didn't think about. I'd been on plenty of fire calls or car accidents, and I'd seen what firefighters did, and I was always reminded of why I was not badass enough to do that job, and why I was cops. Like, you guys are crazy. That's all there is to it.
Well, it's clinically proven. Yes.
I'm not doing the bullshit that you guys do. So I'm going to be a police officer. But I asked little questions. But to be honest with you, I was in I think between shock and, yes, it was a nightmare that I woke up to, the anxiety and claustrophobia of being blind. My life is over. My kids are going to be scared of me. Asking my wife, why in the hell are you still here? Go move on with your life. I mean, just nothing but devastating stuff. So it took quite a bit of time. And, I'd ask the doctor a question one day. I'd ask my dad a question one day, and slowly started piecing things together until I was able to find my center of gravity, my foundation on, okay, now I'm accepting that this has happened. Where am I going to go from here? So it was just it was almost a strict but kind of random timeline of how I got through those early months.
And it's one of those things where, like, why I wanted to start off in the beginning of, like, how excited you are to be able to go and speak and everything. And I'm sure people see, like, where you are now and, like, the passion behind your voice. But they didn't see the struggle that you went through to get that passion, to stand there with the attitude of, you can do this too. Tell me more about those days, because I think that's where the true Jason came out, and it was like, this is one badass motherfucker. Sorry, I'm gonna say it if nobody else.
I wish I felt as tough as you're describing me. But
you are.
I try to explain to people, because again, the human side of things, just the reality. We all have a story. We've all gone through stuff, and I'm very open with my journey about, listen, there were some really dark days. I mean, the level of pain that I experienced is off the charts. There's nothing as unique as a fucking burn injury. They suck.
Yeah.
And not just because of the disfigurements, it's just the ridiculous pain that's involved. And
what would you equate that to, Jason? Because I don't think people can understand. They can understand pain. Like, we go on the medical calls, and I always say, what's their pain on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you're dead. Because a lot of people are like, oh, my toe is stubbed, and it's a 10.
Yeah. Well, no, it is. But with burns, I'd put it at a 20 of, like, I wish I was dead right now because I cannot do this. But even the way that, with my burns, especially being so deep, or when you do get to the third degree and you're talking about all your nerve endings and just your skin being removed, replaced. I mean, nothing hurts as bad as a donor site. It's not even the skin graft site that hurts so bad, but the simple thing of, like, taking a shower, it is, you turn on the shower head and all that comes out of there is 1,000 needles straight into your body. It's like, I'm not kidding you, dude. After I got home from the hospital, if I knew, like, about an hour before I knew my wife was going to say, it's time to take a shower, I'd already be in tears. I would already be like, no, I'm not, I can't do it. The pain was crazy. And then again, the fear and the anxiety, the claustrophobia of being blind, learning that I had lost half my fingers and going through, like, God, I love golf. I'm good at golf. I got a college scholarship, and now I've lost that. I lost my appearance. My children are going to be scared of me. I went through so many just crazy dark days and fluctuations of mood, like being motivated one day to go to therapy and get stronger, and then the next day being like, I'm not going to therapy. Fuck therapy. I can't do it.
Exactly.
I need a day off, and I really don't care what any of my support system thinks. I need a day for me, and it's not that I'm quitting, but kind of, mentally. And what I learned through all this in my own personal journey, there's so much strength and beauty inside vulnerability, but until you are there, until you let yourself be wrapped in the blanket of other people fighting for you when you can't fight for yourself, when you're reduced to literally nothing, you're not going to understand it. And I try to pass that on to people. Like, listen, I didn't get in this car accident and then all of a sudden
you're speaking.
say I'm good. I ended up going back to work. I ended up being a homicide detective. I ended up shooting my gun again
Seriously.
my hands are so deformed and fucked up. I hate them. I only have 5 fingers. I got my handicap in golf back down to a 1.
Seriously.
I swear to God. Then I ended up retiring after years and moved on into public speaking, which, 12, 13 years ago when I started, I sucked, like epically sucked at public speaking. And so
I love it.
I really dove into it. Like, I love this. I love passing on my passion for life, my gratitude. I want to brag about these firefighters. I'm going to brag about my doctor. I'm going to brag about my wife. Look at what my kids are doing now. They're better because of this. And it's nothing but I get to remind myself and continue to be grateful and have this passion for life. And I'm not a Tony Robbins guy. And
you're better than him. Don't give me.
Well, no, listen, I love watching the guy, and he makes millions and millions of dollars for a reason. But I'm not a pound my fist on the podium. You could do this. You need to do that. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I'm going to tell you what worked and didn't work for me, and then whatever you have going on in life, it does not have to look or feel like mine. In fact, to most of my audiences, the very first thing I tell them is, right now, you got to get it out of your head. My injuries and my former career are the 2 least important parts of this story. That is not the focus. Life happens to all of us, and we got to live this life with what we're given. And then I go into the story, and later on, my story is definitely a journey of, I go through like the military and what kind of gave me some structure and discipline, why I became a police officer, which is something to this day. I don't have regrets. I am grateful. I became an officer because
that's huge. Did you have regrets at some point?
What's that?
Did you have regrets when you were going through your rehab at some point?
No, not at all. No, not at all.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
I was doing, I do believe it's one of the handful of jobs that truly is a calling. It is just who you are at all times. And I became an officer because of the death of another Phoenix police officer. And my accident occurred 2 years to the day of his death.
Wow.
Again, the irony of that, I went to work that day just so humbled and appreciative. I remember I went over to his memorial marker to, make the sign of the cross to thank him for his service and sacrifice, my opportunities, having no idea that in about 8 hours, I'm going to be laying right next to you, pal. That's how you don't know these things. Right. But I've never lost sight of my why. And when I talk to first responders, that's what I really want to emphasize, because in today's world, especially, I never thought I would see a country like I live in right now. It drives me.
Yeah, I can imagine.
If I let it. Listen, part of the reason I have to laugh and be as positive as I am is because I'm scared of my own level of anger. Like I could lose it on some of these stupid asses that are running around and running our country right now. But I want to tell these first responders, I teach at the academy, so I still get to talk to the new people. Right. But anytime I talk to firefighters and cops, especially ones that have, 10 years or north on, and they've seen a lot, They got things affecting them. Some have PTSD. Some now have families or have gone through a divorce. Some are drinking. Some are contemplating quitting. Some are thinking about suicide. It's like, I just want to get through to them. And I think if we can all, nobody started this job because they didn't want to, or nobody was holding a gun to your head. You had a passion and a belief in yourself, and you knew you were going to make a difference. You knew you were going to have fun. That's what a lot of people don't realize. Like, oh my God, thank you for your service. Are you kidding me? I had a blast doing the shit that I was doing. I freaking love this job.
I love that.
But I really like to talk to first responders, just be like, hey, yeah, things didn't go as I had them written down on paper, but it doesn't take away from, I had 7 incredible years. I did serve my community. I did make a difference. And then I had my own thing that I had to deal with. And now my life is incredible. I look at I have one of my best friends from the academy is now an assistant chief with Phoenix Police Department. Just had a great career. And, I won't lie. I look at him and be like, I probably still would be a homicide detective. What would I look like with, my hair going gray like his is? I have these little daydreams, but I just have more fun looking at, like, you know what? Good job, guys. I'm so proud of you. And he's a great example of, this was my best friend. This is the guy who identified me at the hospital by a tattoo. This is the guy who had to go wake my wife up and change her life forever, knowing that by the time he got her back to the hospital, I'd be dead. He went through a lot, and instead of taking that and letting it destroy his career, his marriage, his ability to be a father, he turned it around and let it propel him forward. And now he's just killing it in the profession. So
I love
there's
that.
just so much good. So much good.
I love that, man. And I love that your quote. And when you talk about, the one thing that you can control every single day and you have the decision to control is your attitude, and exactly what you're talking about right there. It is something that we have control over every single day. I want people to make sure that they go to burningshield.com. You can find out more about your story. You can find, he has an amazing book, Burning Shield. I want to ask you one question before we get to my 3 questions to end the podcast. I want to find out more, because this is probably something that you had to deal with early on in your speaking is, when people see you for the first time, the shock value, right?
Right.
How do you get past that to have them hear the message behind that?
Well, there's different levels and situations. So, I used to travel, and I'd have to have somebody with me for emotional support, for with my eyesight. I can't always find my way through an airport. And I finally got to a point probably about 6 years ago where I'm like, Jason, you got to quit taking people away from their families and their jobs, and you got to do this on your own. And I was able to find a lot of strength in that. And the first, first year, maybe first 20 trips I went on, it was very difficult. I was sitting in restaurants alone, or skipping meals because I was so nervous about, I don't want to ruin somebody else's day by having their kids see my appearance. But now I sit in restaurants, I sit at the bar and order a beer before my flight. I'm just so consumed with self-confidence. I know, when I go on these trips, I know why I'm there. I know what I just did and why I'm going home, or why I'm here in Phoenix, where I'm going. And that provides me a lot of strength. But as soon as people, if you turn off the news, seriously, and you don't listen to any, literally do not listen to one single fucking politician in this country. If you ignore those 2 things, you realize that people are full of compassion and they're kind. And my favorite thing is, if I strike up a conversation with somebody, say at the bar, at a airport, man, you can see the look on their face as soon as they hear my voice and I start talking. I don't have to tell them. I don't go into detail unless they ask. Well, sometimes I'll make jokes if I'm depending on. I mean, I've told people I sucked at cooking meth. That's what happened.
Yeah. I could see you saying that too.
Oh, dude, yeah, my garage blew up and things like that. So
tried out for Breaking Bad,
but I like to laugh. Yeah, exactly. You didn't see me in Breaking Bad. I was the first guy killed off in the season opener. But I like to laugh, and so
yeah,
it's been an interesting journey. I do run across certain people who might be a little rude or. But you know what? I always remind myself, if somebody wants to degrade or be mean to a complete stranger that they don't know their story, then they're obviously hurting in a way that I can't even
help them
relate to. And I'm not going to, and you know what, dude, I'm sorry for what you're going through, but you're on your own.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I go through it. But thankfully, after all these years, and it was a long journey, but I'm just a very confident guy. I love my job. I love my life. And you know what? When I look in the mirror, I'm good to go.
I love it, Jason. Jason, you are such an inspiration, and make sure you go to burningshield.com. This is something that you do not want to miss, reading his book or having him out for your next speaking engagement. Somebody that inspires everybody of all sorts of and types, and definitely appreciate you coming on. But you're not done yet.
Oh, excellent.
I've got three questions for you. All right, you ready
for the first one?
All right, if you could go back to your 18-year-old self and give yourself one piece of advice, what would that be?
Wow, that's an excellent question. Go back to my 18-year-old self. You know, the reason this is a great question is because I talk about this in my speech. I show pictures of me when I was younger. Yeah. And I say how bad I'd like to write a letter to that guy. I honestly don't, because I probably wouldn't tell him exactly what's going to happen.
Rough. Yeah, yeah.
Because I would not have made it. What I think what I would say to my 18-year-old self, when you're young and naive and you're indestructible. You know, I joined the military. I was in this. What I would say is simply, you're going to come across situations as you go through life. And the one thing you have to remember is to be patient in your grief and be patient in your struggle. And it's always going to work out.
Wow. I love that. And from you, that's a huge statement. I love that. Second question here. Everybody's going through challenges and struggles. And if you could give them 2 habits to incorporate into their daily life, 2 habits that they could do morning, afternoon, or nighttime, it doesn't matter. What would those 2 habits be?
The first habit would be, I think, the most inherent desire when we wake up in the morning is to be inspired. Something move me, something make me feel good. And I rely on the simplest, smallest of things. I can hear songs that will put me in the exact emotion I need to be in. I can identify something in my day that is going to move me in a positive direction. And so that's the direction I'm going to go. So when you wake up in the morning, there's no way at the end of the day you're going to look back and say, well, that went exactly as I had planned, because it just never will. Right. So you've got to stay on path with what is moving you that day. And sometimes actually just let me get through the next hour and see what I can see from there. You can break it down to that. So that's my first thing. And then the second thing is to, once you have identified your purpose, and for example, my main purpose is being a dad. That is the biggest thing that saved my life emotionally and mentally. I have 3 incredible kids that I'm so blessed, and they're all grown up now. They're all doing their own thing. But to this day, my sole purpose in life is to be Kylie, Zane, and Mason's dad. And always having that purpose and being in touch with it, dude, it's an impenetrable shield around me. So those are the 2 pieces of advice. I would find your purpose, and follow your whatever moves you that day.
I love that. All right, this last one's gonna be fun. I don't know where you're gonna go with this. I always say that, but I enjoy this last question. So if you could have coffee with 3 individuals, they could be deceased or alive, at a firehouse table. So in other words, there's no question that you can't ask and it will be answered. Who would those 3 people be and why?
If I could have coffee with 3 people in this world, wow.
Be deceased or alive. I mean, it could be George Washington, anybody.
I would have to. Wow, I'm really gonna have to go out on a limb here and think for a second. I would say the first person I would want to have coffee with is Nick Saban, the coach of Alabama, because his ability to provide structure and discipline and propel young people on to nothing but success, whether it be in the NFL or business. His mindset, what he overcame losing his dad when he was young, and I just have so much admiration and respect for a guy like that. So I would have coffee with him. The second person I think I would have coffee with would be Martin Luther King Jr., because I would say, you're a phenomenal speaker. Can you give me a couple tips? And number 2, I would say,
please come back.
Well, please come back, because nobody got it the way you and everybody's lost sight of what you wanted us to be and what you wanted this world to be. Yeah. So I would definitely want to sit and have a nice long conversation with him. And then the other person, you know what? I'm going to go back to your previous question. The other person I would sit and have coffee with is 18-year-old me, and just simply say,
oh, wow.
Just simply say, I would probably hand him an envelope that was time sealed.
It's like Back to the Future.
Yes, but I would be like, here there's a letter and a couple of little keepsakes in this envelope. You cannot open them until you're 50 years old, but just trust me, the day that you get to open this, it's going to be worth it.
I have one more question, because I just thought of it as you said that. If you were able to go back to your 18-year-old self and tell yourself to take one more second at that intersection, would you? Or
no.
I knew that.
And you know why? It's because, and there's several reasons. I'll answer them real quick for you, because I know we're running out of time.
No,
but,
you're fine. You're fine.
Okay. Number 1, that guy who hit me was having the seizure, and yes, he ended up going to prison. He had caused 4 other accidents prior to mine. He was. He definitely had to be held accountable. It wasn't just an accident, but being in that grand mal seizure, he would have made it to the next traffic light. And I would never want to even think of removing myself and him taking out a woman with her kids or somebody's grandparents. I did my job. I protected somebody else. And yes, 10 out of 10 times, leave me right there in that intersection. And then the second thing that is so incredibly important, my youngest son was born 18 months after the accident.
Wow. That
kid is just so humble, so appreciative. He's playing college baseball in Charlotte, North Carolina now. And it's one thing that I was saved. It's one thing that I overcame some challenges, and that I have been lucky enough to continue to live my life. But this is a life that if I am not in that accident, it just doesn't exist. And when I think about the children he's going to have, the children they're going to have, we are talking generations of beauty that would have been completely erased and never existed. So hell no would I take myself out of that intersection.
Dude, you made me I don't know if I'm going to end this one. You made me get a little emotional there, because
dude, you have me so fired up right now. I
I
can't
freaking love it. I love it.
Now I got to hang out with you and like run through a brick wall or something. I don't know. God,
Jason, I mean, this is, man, I love the passion. I love what you just said, because I think there's a lot of people that need that message that you just said. You can't change the past, and nor should you want to,
Yes.
because you're the person you are today because of the things that you've went through. So Jason, thank you so much for all the words today, and make sure you go to burningshield.com. This gentleman will inspire you, will make you run through brick walls because of his your speeches. But thank you again, and continue to do what you're doing, brother.
I love it, man. Thank you so much. This was, like I said, I'm just truly filled with inspiration again and ready to have a beautiful day because of you. So I really appreciate this opportunity.
Love it, brother. Thanks so much.
You got it.
Thanks for listening and supporting the Forged in the Fires podcast with Fireman Rob. Remember, don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast, and please share this episode with a friend or family. To find out more about Fireman Rob or reach out about a question, go to www.firemanrob.com. Until next time, live your life forged in the fires.